Would you like to get overpaid by $1 million? Yes. And that's what happened with Brian Kelly at LSU. Did y'all see this story? Thanks to an audit from the state of Louisiana, it was discovered that Brian Kelly was overpaid $1,001,368 in supplemental payments in 2022 because of a duplicate payment made to both his LLC and to him directly. Excuse me. Now, the Associated Press is who I was reading that from, but it's very interesting oversight, lack of. I mean, I could see how this would happen. It certainly seems worse than perhaps it really is, but that is a lot of money to get wrong, and that's why we have auditors. I mean, that's what the state is there to do. I have to say, though, it's not surprising this happened in Louisiana. I mean, Louisiana has a very poor reputation in terms of state governance, and this is a pretty good example of that. Here's what the legislative report said, according the auditor's report said, according to the Associated Press. It says LSU management and the head football coach have enacted an adjusted payment schedule, so the amount of overpayment will be recouped by the conclusion of fiscal year 2023. So that will be before. I'm assuming Louisiana has the same fiscal year as everybody else, and that means that by June 30th, this correction will be made. What people don't understand about, or typically don't get, there's two things going on here that should be explained. Number one, all of these coaches at state institutions are state employees. They are almost always the largest employee of the state that they work in. Now, that's not always the case. For instance, the uh, I'm just trying to think of, like Hugh Freeze and Nick Saban can't be the state of Alabama's most expensive employee. However, what happens here is that the state entity, which in this case are the athletic departments, they provide more income for the coaches because of booster clubs, television contracts, etc. So it is a strange situation, but they represent state institutions. Everybody in the SEC, with the exception of Vanderbilt, is in that position, and the vast majority of big time college football are state schools. So this sort of stuff can happen. It shouldn't. I'll tell you that right now. $1 million plus overpayment, that should not happen. I mean, that's going to get caught from an auditor. I've dealt with um, some of these folks in the past in terms of at state agencies and so forth, local agencies. You're not going to get away with $1 million mistake. And thankfully, that was corrected. Now, I have to say, too, probably Brian Kelly should have caught this, but he might not have thought about it, but that he probably should have caught this. Speaking of which, make sure you're catching this opportunity to get double dogs today, okay? We are at the point here where we're going to run out of confetti for sure. The confetti audit, speaking of which, has occurred. We are about at the number right now that I feel comfortable saying we can get to folks. I don't want to overpromise, so order it today. You literally are running out of time. This is an awesome, I'm gonna just say this is an awesome book. It's almost done. There's no reason to email me. It will not be to you, and you will not get this in January. It doesn't matter when you ordered it. It is impossible for that to happen. So it's looking like middle to late February. If you order it at the beginning, you'll get it first. Everybody at Red Zone that ordered, you'll be getting it as well. So pick it up today. If you've already ordered, you're getting the confetti. If you've not yet ordered, you need to get on it if you want confetti. Double Dogs is the story of the 2022 Georgia National Championship season, an undefeated season, only the second or third in Georgia history, whatever it is. And they beat up on Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers. Now, one thing that was interesting in the report was that the auditor pointed out the turnaround in LSU's finances, the football office, and how much more money they generated through all sorts of different stuff. But you know, it is going to be hard in the future for these schools to act like they're nonprofits. I mean, there's already been in the Trump administration the tax benefit from giving to giving to LSU and Georgia's athletic department that went away. The tax benefit. So there's going to be at some stage we have to recognize these are not. I mean, these are businesses. That's my opinion slash reality. So how long they'll hold on to all of this is a good question. I mean, Brian Kelly is getting paid right around $10 million a year. Kirby Smart makes, I think, 11 something, and then Nick makes like a dollar more than Kirby because of ego, I guess. But or his contract, which is probably the same thing. But this is not a nonprofit. These are profitable institutions. These are profitable entities, certainly in the SEC, and I would say all of Power Five. So at some stage, um, it's hard to really, there's not a lot of state agencies that have an excess of cash like these guys do. And they're going to continue in the coming years because of television contracts, the Big Ten, the SEC, even perhaps to some degree, the Big 12 could see increases in their bottom line because of what's going on. But why does this matter to Georgia? Um, I don't know that it necessarily does, other than I do not recall a payment like this in the past to any head coach at Georgia that was not caught by the coach or the institution. That's pretty bad bookkeeping, frankly. Um, as a person who's been in business for an extended period of time, that's pretty bad bookkeeping on LSU's part. But we are talking about Louisiana here again. State Huey Long. I mean, uh, I don't know which is more has a more of a history of poor governance between Illinois or Chicago, but they're pretty close. They're pretty close together. I mean, Louisiana though does seem to take the cake all the time. And make sure that you're picking up the DoorDash app with dog posts for a limited time. Our listeners get 50% off a $20 value. So like if you want McDonald's or Burger King or a local Athens restaurant, there's a lot of them that deliver. Okay, if you want that $0 in delivery fees, you download the DoorDash app and enter the code DAWG, just like Dog Post. 50% off of a $20 value, $0 in delivery fees when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter the code DAWG for dog. That's DAWG for 50% off of a $20 value, $0 in delivery fees with DoorDash, subject to change and terms apply. The terms for Brian Kelly were for him to get delivered this money at particular dates. That's how these contracts work for coaches. They are required. The institutions are required to pay quarterly or sometimes monthly payments of the whatever the dollar amount is divided by the 12 months. And so, like for instance, with Kirby, he gets a straight payment of a little bit under $1 million a month. Uh, Actually, it's probably relatively significantly under $1 million a month because Kirby's salary from the state of Georgia is hundreds of thousands of dollars. So he's still, though they're having to figure out how to split up that 11, let's just say about 10.3 million maybe or so that he's owed from the university's athletic department. That is all sliced up by the month. Sometimes it's by the quarter. It depends on the contracts. I have to say, as a person who reads these coaches' contracts, you don't want to do that. They have become simplified at Georgia. In years gone by, they were pretty complicated, convoluted contracts. That's not the case as much anymore. It really is much more clear. It spells out in the contract when the payments are due, what the bowl games are worth, what national championships are worth. One thing I don't understand is why national championships as a line item are not worth more in these coaching contracts. And the answer is because they rip up contracts or they extend contracts. That's the answer. But if it were me and these coaching contracts were more, uh, I mean, coaching contracts are kind of fly by the seat of your pants in many ways. The money is basically guaranteed, okay? But at the same time, um, what is the value of a national championship at Georgia? That's probably another video, and I think you're going to have to determine that at LSU. I would be a little surprised if Brian Kelly did not win the national championship at LSU. He knows what he's doing. He's never won the national championship, but he's never been the head coach at LSU either. And if Ed Orgeron can do it, I can assure you Brian Kelly can.